Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for this video, I will be discussing my September TBR, all of the books that I hope and plan to get to in the month of September. And I think I have about 10 books to show here, and a lot of them, hopefully all of them, I'm excited for. I think I've got a good mix of genres like I try to always do. I've got some horror, got some sci-fi, got some fantasy. I'm even reading the last book in a fantasy series, which I'm very excited for. I've got some new potential favorites from authors that I've been enjoying recently, and some fun rereads. So a little bit of everything this month. Hopefully I can get to all of them and possibly no more DNFs. I had 3 in August, which you guys will see in my August wrap-up in a few days. But yeah, hopefully September will be excellent. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's go ahead and start with the books that I own physically here. And like I mentioned, there is going to be one fantasy series that I will be wrapping up, reading the last book in the series. Very excited for The Spider's War by Daniel Abraham. And this is book 5, the final book in Dagger and Coin. And I've been really enjoying my time with this series. The 4th book was excellent. There was like one kind of minor complaint I had with it, but other than that, it was a great 4.5 stars. I'll talk about that more in my wrap-up. But The Spider's War, last book in the series, obviously can't go into a lot of detail because it's spoiler territory, but very excited for the conclusion. Hopefully Daniel Abraham sticks the landing, because I think if he does, this is possibly top 10 fantasy series of all time for me. It's in that kind of territory. But yeah, with a title like The Spider's War, I think there's just a lot of potential for this to be one of the best fantasy conclusions out there. So hopefully that stands true, and hopefully it's good. Our pick for the Stephen King book club for the month of September is going to be Christine, which is one of my all-time favorites. I think maybe top 20, but maybe top 25. I don't know. But Stephen King obviously had a lot of grades, but this is one of my favorites. I think I usually give it somewhere between 4 and 4.5 stars. It's not perfect, and there's like a couple of minor things, but I do love the premise. Obviously, if you don't know what Christine is, it's essentially about a possessed car that goes around killing people. There's a lot more to it than that, especially if you've only seen the movie, where that's kind of just what it is. Like, there's a lot more background as to why that's happening, and it's very interesting. And there's just some great character work in here, as always, from Stephen King. And yeah, Christine's just one of my favorites, and I know a lot of people are excited for this one in particular, so definitely come check out the Bookish Drummer Discord, where me and Ian from Ian the Reader are hosting the Stephen King Book Club. And our pick for September is Christine, so either reread a favorite with us or come check it out for the very first time. And as you guys will see in my August wrap-up, I had a very sudden urge to go back and reread a bunch of George R.R. Martin, and I'll talk a lot more about that in probably my August wrap-up, because I read quite a bit from him, and I plan to just keep that train rolling with a couple more of his. I'm going to be rereading Windhaven, which is actually a standalone kind of fantasy fix-up novel that he co-wrote with his buddy Lisa Tuttle. And I'm going to try to get to another one of his collections, Sand Kings, which is one of my personal favorites. And it has the title novella Sand Kings, which is just one of the best things that he ever wrote. And if you guys are unaware, George R. R. Martin does have a ton of stuff that he wrote in the 70s and 80s, well before he even had the idea for A Song of Ice and Fire. And all of this is why he became my favorite author. Song of Ice and Fire shot him all the way up to number 2, and Stephen King was number 1 for a long time. But it's stuff like this, Windhaven and Sand Kings and all this stuff right behind me, that he is my all-time favorite author. And it's just been a blast going back to reread some of these. Windhaven's going to be interesting, because I just read this for the first time last year. So it's still relatively fresh in my mind, and I think I'm going to like it even more on a reread. And Sand Kings just has some of my all-time favorite short stories and novellas that he's ever written, like The Way of Crossing Dragon, Bitter Blooms, In the House of the Worm, and the title story Sand Kings. He has a lot of really cool and out there sci-fi horror tales. So it's just really fun to get this side of George. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun revisiting basically all of his stuff. And I believe at the top that I said I have 10 books on my TBR. It possibly could be 11 if I have time to get to this book, which I actually just bought from Barnes & Noble. This book sounds amazing. But will I have time to read it? Not sure. I might actually slide it for October because it would be a perfect spooky season book. But I'm, of course, talking about My Ex, the Antichrist. And from the back of this book, it makes it sound like it's like band drama, but like a horror books. And that makes me think like, oh, it's going to be like Daisy Jones and the Six, but horror. If I could just read the back of it for y'all. 1998, Lily Lawyer and Drake Morgan form a punk band. Drake inspires faith in some, fear in others. Lily is a believer. Jump to 2010. At the height of her stardom, Lily walks into a police station and confesses to a murder. Now, the band has refused to talk to the press about their rituous past, Lily's confession, or anything else. It's been over a decade, but Lily has finally agreed to an interview, and the band is following her lead. And I just have a really great feeling that this is going to be an all-time favorite because, like I mentioned, like full cast narration, band stuff, music, but it's all horror based. And like the title, like My Ex, the Antichrist. Oh, I'm probably overhyping this book, and it might not be as good as I'm imagining it's going to be. But I'm so excited for this book. I'm probably overhyping it, but hopefully I can get to it in September. If not, October would be the perfect time to read this kind of book. But yeah, just letting y'all know this is on my radar. And then the rest of the books I don't own physically, I will be doing on audiobook. Let's start out with a couple of Patreon picks. And I actually have two. One of them is actually going to be a God tier level Patreon pick from Aaron. And if you don't know, I do have a Patreon link where you can go support me for as little as $1 a month. But if you're a God tier, which is the highest level, you get all of the perks from the rest of the different settings. But the God tier, you get an additional 2 books for me to read in the calendar year, and I read them and do dedicated book reviews for them. I'll link down below some dedicated book reviews I've done for God tier levels already this year, such as Don Quixote, which was an interesting read. But the pick that Aaron has for the month of September for his God tier level is The Gray Man by Mark Greaney. And this is kind of just a random thriller that I've not really heard about. I know it does have an adaptation that I haven't seen, but I've heard really good things from this. I'm just going to kind of jump in and not really know what I'm going into. I think it's thriller, and I think it might be military based. I could be way off, but I really don't know much about this book, and I'm going to just jump in not knowing much, and hopefully it's good. And I will finish it and do a dedicated book review at some point, probably post that either in late September, early October, so be aware of that. My other Patreon pick from the Patreon Wheelspin winner is Kate, and the book that she wants me to read is Roadside Picnic by an author that I probably can't pronounce, but it's interesting. Aaron, before he kind of settled on The Gray Man, he was actually thinking of picking Roadside Picnic, and then a couple of my Discord members are also interested in this book. And honestly, I've never really heard of this book until like a few months ago. So it's kind of interesting that like so many, close friends are like really wanting to read this book. So I'm very interested in this book. I don't really know that much about it. I think it's supposed to be kind of dystopian, and I think it's originally written in Russian, and I don't really know too much about it, but I want to jump in like The Gray Man, not knowing much, and figure it out. Yeah, Roadside Picnic by Arcada Strug. Yeah, I don't know. And speaking of the Book of Strummer Discord, a fun game that we like to play on there is the random number generator game, where I randomly pick a number between 1 and 100, and all of my Discord members get to guess what that number is, and whoever is the closest gets to choose a book from my Goodreads TBR for me to read the following month. And I don't remember who the winner is, but I'll post them right here. This winner picked for me to read The Third Rule of Time Travel by Philip Fracassi. And this is an author that I think is going to be a new all-time favorite. I've only read 2 of their books, Gothic and The Boys in the Valley, but they're really great horror novels. And this one I think is obviously supposed to be more of a time travel kind of sci-fi deal. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can write great sci-fi just as he writes great horror. But nonetheless, I am very excited. I also don't really know too much about this besides that it inherently involves time travel, I'm supposing. But very excited nonetheless, and I will be definitely getting to this in September. And speaking of the Book of Strummer Discord, yet again, we always have tons of buddy reads and read-alongs, including Dungeon Crawler Carl. And for the month of September, we're going to be reading book 6, which is titled The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. Now, book 5, which the title is, oh God, what is the title? That's going to bug me. The Butcher's Masquerade. That book was excellent. So far in the series, like book 1 has been my favorite, and then books 2, 3, and 4 were pretty good. Book 5 is on the same level as book 1 for me. Book 5, even though like it's getting longer and longer, the book 5 was paced very well. It was very action-packed, very funny. So it's like just on par with book 1. Maybe book 1, I tend to just love book 1s in series anyway, but book 5 was excellent. So hopefully we can kind of go up from here, and maybe book 6 will even be even better. But anyway, book 6, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. Hopefully it's great. And again, Book of Strummer Discord, tons of read-alongs and buddy reads. We're also going to be continuing with the Sun Eater read-along. I will say, however, that I am a bit behind. We were supposed to read book 4, Kingdoms of Death, in August, but for some reason, I kept reading this book, and just for whatever reason, I was not in the mood at the time. I tried reading this book. I started it like 3 times, and I just couldn't get into it for whatever reason. I guess it must have been a mood thing, because I do really enjoy this series. But for right now, I'm slotting book 4 in September, and maybe if I have time, I'll read book 5 in September also, but probably book 5, which is supposed to be in September, I might end up reading that in October. So I might just end up being 1 month behind, inevitably, but I don't know. But anyway, I need to read book 4, Kingdoms of Death, which is one of my favorites in the series. Book 3 is still my favorite, but book 4 is really excellent. And with the title like Kingdoms of Death, there's some interesting stuff in this book. So yes, hopefully I can finally get to this book and then maybe kind of catch up in the series, because eventually book 7, the final book in the Sun Eater saga, or however you call it, is coming out in like mid-November, around my birthday, and I want to be able to read it, so I need to catch up eventually. Kingdoms of Death, gotta read it. And the last book I have to talk about for my September TBR. This comes out, it's a new release, and it comes out in kind of late September. It's very short though, so I'm very confident that I can finish it basically on release day. Maybe not if I'm working long hours that day. But anyway, I'm talking, of course, about Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. And this book, I'm super excited for, because I've so far read 2 of her books. One of them, Just Like Home, one of my all-time favorite horror novels. And also The Echo Wife, which is a bit more on the sci-fi thriller kind of vibe. That one I also gave 5-star to for very different reasons. But I just love the way that she writes. I love the way that she writes her characters. And I just love her as an author so far. It's only 2 books, but they've both been 5 stars. And I'm very excited for her new book, Spread Me, which looks like it's going to be about viruses, maybe even aliens. I don't know. I try not, as you can tell, I try not to go into some of these books that are kind of newer to me. I try to go into them as blind as possible, not really knowing as much up front, so that when I get to the good stuff, I can kind of be blown away by it. But this one is very short. I think the audiobook, which I picked up, is like less than 6 hours, so it's very short. But I'm very excited for it nonetheless. Hopefully it's very good, and I'm super pumped for it. All right, so that is my September TBR. 10, possibly 11 books for me to read in the month of September. And just a quick recap, we've got a couple Patreon picks, The Gray Man and Roadside Picnic. We've got the Random Number Generator winner, The Third Rule of Time Travel, continuing Dungeon Crawler Carl with The Eye of the Bedlam Bride, Spread Me by Sarah Gailey, new release coming out at the very tail end of September. The Spider's War, Daniel Abraham, 5th and last book in the Dagger and Coin series. Very excited to wrap that series up. Kingdoms of Death by Sun Eater should have been read in August, but I'm going to try to catch up with it in September. And then we got a couple of George R. R. Martin rereads for me. Sand Kings, one of his best collections, in Windhaven. Fantastic standalone fantasy novel. And then Christine for the Stephen King book club for the month of September. Very excited for that, and definitely there's a lot of people hyped for Christine. So yeah, hopefully I can manage to get to all of these. It's a lot, but I think I can manage. Oh, and also, if I have enough time, I have My Ex, the Antichrist. But I have a feeling that it's probably going to be slotted for October, which would make sense anyway for a book like this. We shall see, though. I'm very excited for this book. But yeah, those are my September plans. In a couple of days on Wednesday, I will be posting my August wrap-up. And August was a very interesting month, and you'll see why. I had a few DNFs, but a lot of 5-star new favorites. And just in general, most of the books that I finished were really good. Did have a lot of DNFs, but my overall rating was like skyrocketed high. But yeah, I'll talk about that more in a couple of days. Definitely let me know what you thought of my TBR here. Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Not like them? Did I persuade or dissuade you from picking up any of these books? Comment down below and we'll chat about it. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you are subscribed, stay subscribed for more, for more content. I try to post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And yeah, Bookish Sermon Discord down below where we've got tons of bite reads and read-alongs. I mentioned Sun Eater, Stephen King, Dungeon Crawler Carl. There's also a couple that I'm not even a part of. John Mars, Green Rider. So always tons of stuff for everybody to check out. And like I mentioned, I have my Patreon link down below if you want to go support me there for as little as $1 a month, or go God tier level, and then you get to make me read a bunch of books, and then I have to do dedicated book reviews for them, which could be interesting. I mean, someone made me read Don Quixote, which is like a 1,000-page classic, so I'm willing. And also I have my Amazon wish list if you want to go buy me a book. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic day.